Hello everyone, this is Lori from Grammy's Keepsakes and back with part 2 of making our little tri-fold journal. And in the last video, this was the last page that I glued on, and so now what we're going to do is the pocket here for this page, and I measured it to be about 3 3/8 inches high by the width of the decorator cardstock, 3 7/8. So I'm going to put my finger up here at the top where that's going to be open. I'm going to use my art glitter glue and glue on 3 sides. And then we'll go ahead and place that on, lining up the sides and bottom and pressing it. So that's going to be our little pocket here. And I want a little pocket here. And I have this scrap of cutoff from the last journal I tried to make, and so let's use this. And I want to round this corner here, and I'm using We Are Memory Keepers corner rounder, and this is just a scrap, but it measures 2 3/4 by 4 1/8, and that's flexible. It can be whatever you have. And I'm just inking around the sides of it, because again, that's going to be glued down, so I'm not going to have access to it without getting this side all dirty with the ink. So it's going to look like that. So go ahead and glue 2 sides of that. And then we're going to get the signature ready to go. Lined up the bottom and side. And pressing it down. So there's our little pocket. So this is the spine that our signature is going to go in. What I want to do now is just get this out of the way so we don't damage it. And I've got a selection of coffee dyed paper that I've recently done. It is a graph paper. And here I've got some Kool-Aid dyed paper. It's kind of a pinky purple and a blue. So what I want to do is line it all up, and I'm going to measure 7 1/8 inch here and cut it off. Making sure it's straight. And then I have my pieces and my cutoffs. And my cutoffs are what's going to be my little secret notebook. So we're going to put those to the side. And these, I'm going to use this really marked up one for the center, or the outside of the signature, I'm sorry. And we'll use one of the Kool-Aid dyed ones for the next. Let's go ahead and use the purple one. No, I want more color. I want the blue. That will be much better. And then I want a plain. And the graph paper one. And then we'll use that pink, purple one. And we can move them around too. We can do anything we want until they're all sewn in. And we'll use this one for the center. Okay, so that's my signature. And it's too wide, so I need to cut it to 4 inches. See, right now it's about 4 1/4, so I need to trim that up. So trim that to 4. That's looking pretty good. I'm sorry I don't have my camera over my paper cutter. It's just, it's so big and cumbersome that I have to have it on a table on its own. It can cut a 15-inch wide paper, and I like it because the wallpaper I like to use is so wide. And then we can go ahead and do some stenciling on some of the pages, kind of trying to choose what I'd like. Oh, here, let's put some numbers. I've got a selection of Tim Holtz Stamper Anonymous stencils that I like to use. And we use our Vintage Photo Distress ink and a makeup brush. So, and then I just put my stencil on and just randomly, in a circular motion, get some of the stencil. That side's really pretty. Here, this side needs some. We'll go ahead and do some numbers. You know, in our traveling, we have lots of numbers. So there's road signs, and there's gate numbers, and street numbers, and phone numbers. So I think it's only fitting in a traveling journal to have some numbers. that will work. Just randomly put them anywhere in the page. We'll do a little bit of this fern leaf too. Got to have some vegetation. Botanical goes with everything, doesn't it? Yeah, that shows up. And with the Kool-Aid dyed, I'm not going to do anything on that. So flip it over. Keep them in line. Let's use our tile again. I like using the makeup brush rather than my blending tool, because my blending tool tends to get the little sponge bits all over. Gets hung up on the plastic. And this is just, it's just a makeup blending brush. It's nice and soft. And let's go with another little fern leaf. And let's put this little flower over here. Very random. Flip it over. Let's do some more numbers. I mean, let's... And I'm just grabbing a couple of numbers. I'm not going to do the whole thing. So I've just got a 1, a 4, 8, 0, 67. And here we'll go, let's have 9 and 4. I live relatively close to Interstate 94, so that works. And then we have a blue one. Oh, this one needs some. We'll do a few more numbers. Go off the page. And we'll do a little corner botanical there. Close that up. I'm not going to put anything on this pretty side. And line up our pages. Take a quick flip through to make sure I'm okay with it. This will work. Let's do it. Need a couple clips. I'm going to go ahead and get my stencils out of the way. And my brush, my ink. have an accident waiting to happen with the ink out. Get it all nestled in nice and tight, and give a pinch. Hold it down and pinch it. Make sure it's seated well. And then I'm going to use my centering ruler and my pokey tool. And this is 7 1/8 inches tall, so the center is going to be a 1/16 of an inch past my 3 1/2. And so at the center, at the 6 mark or the 0 on that fold, I'm going to go ahead and make a pinprick. Then I'm going to move my ruler to have a definite line of edge to the edge of the paper, and I'm going to go in 1 inch and make a pinprick. Same thing on this side. The ruler at a definite edge to 1 inch in the fold. And now I've got 3 little dots. So now I'm going to fold my signature, put my pokey tool in the mark, and punch through the fold. And then for the top and bottom also. That works. Oh, that. And now we're going to mark where it's going to go in the book. And I use a pencil. And I'm going to need a phone book. Get that handy. I'm also going to need my awl. Get that handy. So what I do here, when I do only one signature, I just do it this way. Otherwise, you can make a chart or template and do it that way, but I find that with one signature, this works for me just fine. So I have my signature centered where I want it to be, top and bottom, and I'm going to make a pencil mark by where those holes are in the signature. Just a little pencil mark. And it's not centered this way, it's just centered where space this way. So now I'm going to take my phone book, and there's my mark. I'm going to come over to the center, eyeball it, and punch it through. Same thing for here, punch it through. So I'm not making the hole on my tick mark, I'm making it into the actual center of the spine. And put the awl away. And then I use my eraser and go ahead and erase my pencil marks. And that works for just a single signature for me. So now we're going to get some cotton crochet thread and my crewel needle. And I like to use a crewel needle because the eye is big and the needle is not real sharp. And so I don't have to worry about poking me. And I'm going to measure 3 times the height, and I'm going to measure a little bit longer too, because I like to have the string long enough that if you want to untie the bow, you can tie a charm on the end of it if you'd like. So now thread the needle, and I just pinch that edge and I just feed it into the eye of the needle sometimes. There we go. That works. And I just have a little tail. Now I'm going to go into the center of my signature, and I don't really have a top, well, my numbers, I guess, dictate my top and bottom. So make sure that it's not upside down and poke it right through the center hole. Leave a long tail because we're going to tie that bow. Come in the bottom hole of the book and then into the signature. I'm at an angle I can't see. There we go. It's coming through. Pull it a little taut. And now I'm going to go all the way to the top hole. And then into the spine. And pull it. And then I'm going to hold this string, pull it a little taut, and come back down the center hole and through the signature. Being careful not to stab the threads. That will weaken them. And it makes it so that you can't pull it taut. And check this side. Yep, it's good. And I have both my threads came out on the same side of this, so I need to bring it under and over to this side. Get rid of my needle. And pull it taut. Check the pressure of the strings on the outside. And go ahead and tie a double knot. And then you can tie it into a bow. And I like it to be a little loopy bow because it gives you more string so that you can untie and cut it off or tie charms on the bottom. And you don't need the clips anymore. And now we need to make some ephemera for our book. So I just have some scraps that we can play with. And I have a large shipping tag. That will fit in here nicely. Let's put that in there. I've got a green dyed index card and a blue dyed index card. And here I had a little scrap and I just used the corner rounder and rounded the corners, so I have like a popsicle stick journal card. So I'm just going to ink the edges. Both the front and the back. And then we can put that in there. And this offcut will make a nice little journal card too. I'm going to go ahead and use the corner rounder. And then ink up the edges. My sponge is leaving those little crumblies all over. Needs to be replaced. Then we can just slip that inside. That looks nice. And I don't think we're going to use these, but this would make a nice journal card, wouldn't it? Let's go ahead and do corner rounding on this also, and ink this up. I think the picture of all the hotel keys with their numbers are kind of fitting for our little travel journal. Yeah, I like that. That'll be nice in there. I like threes. You can add more or take some out, you know, whatever, but I like threes. Here, oh, let's get rid of that ink again. We want our offcut to use as a tablet, and let's space out the colored pages a little bit. We'll put the pink one. Let's flip that this way and this one. And let's go. And I'm going to cut this off at 7 inches. So I want to make sure that I have what I want on the bottom. I really like that one better. This will work. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, line up my bottom, and cut this at 7 inches. And 3 3/4 inches wide, I find fits this the best. And now I'm going to take a second and make a quick stitch through the top. My sewing machine is on the other side of the room, so I'm going to scoot over there quick and take a quick stitch. So we have that, and I'm going to use Fabri-Tac glue and apply the glue right around the thread and the upper portion of that little notepad. And center that in close to the top and press it down. And we have our little notebook. And then we'll let that dry. We need our tag for our front pocket. So I have a shipping tag, and use a mouse pad, grab my little stamp that and the story begins, and black archival ink, and line that up, center it, and towards the top, but under that circle. And I let the rubber stamp set on the paper for at least 10 seconds so that the ink can adhere to the paper fibers. so that you get a better stamp. And then that can go right in there. And so this flips over and this flips over. Now we need a decoration or a title book plate for our journal. And I've already stamped journal on some cardstock. So I'm just going to trim it a wee bit. It's a little bit too wide. Yes. And now I want to use my corner rounder on the 1/4 inch and go in and round those corners. And then ink it up. Get it nice and aged looking. It's been around the world a couple times, right? In our travels. And that's going to go there, but we need to put it on some other paper first. We need nope. Let's use that. Okay. So we're going to measure. I need about 1 1/4 inches. And I'm going to make a little tick mark on that. And put that in my paper cutter. And I want it to be